Robert Sterling carried his grief like a shadow. At 65, he was a renowned architect, his name etched onto gleaming buildings that reshaped skylines. His life was one of quiet precision, blueprints, structural calculations, the careful geometry of steel and glass. But beneath the polished surface was a cavern of regret, a hollow space left by the loss of his son, Thomas. Thomas had been gone for 7 years now. A car accident, sudden and cruel, had extinguished his vibrant light at just 28. Thomas, the artist, the free spirit, who painted canvases bursting with color and played music that stirred the soul. He was everything Robert, the man of straight lines and solid foundations, wasn't. Their relationship had been a complex tapestry of love, pride, and a quiet, persistent misunderstanding. Robert had wanted Thomas to follow a more conventional path, something secure. Thomas had followed his heart, chasing beauty and expression with a single-minded passion that Robert admired but couldn't quite embrace. The last conversation they'd had was a brief, slightly strained one about Thomas's upcoming trip, filled with polite questions and absent-minded answers on Robert's part, leaving so many important things unsaid. Every Tuesday and Thursday morning, before heading to his office, Robert had a ritual. He visited a small, independent art gallery on a quiet side street. It was called The Palette, a cozy space filled with local art, the scent of turpentine and canvas, and a blessed silence broken only by the soft hum of the air conditioning and the occasional murmur of appreciation from a visitor. It wasn't a grand famous gallery, but it held a quiet solace for Robert. He'd wander slowly, his hands clasped behind his back, looking at the brushstrokes, the textures, trying to see the world through eyes different from his own precise architectural gaze. He sometimes imagined Thomas's paintings hanging here, filling the space with their chaotic beauty. The gallery was usually staffed by a young woman named Maria. She had kind eyes framed by dark, wavy hair she often pulled back with a pencil. She was an art student herself, working part-time. She was quiet, respectful, and seemed to possess an innate understanding of the art and the people who sought refuge among it. Robert would sometimes buy a small piece, a sketch or a print, and she would wrap it carefully, her hands swift and graceful. They exchanged polite pleasantries. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling. Lovely day, isn't it, Maria?" A quiet, unobtrusive connection in the hushed space. Over the months, Robert found himself looking forward to his visits, not just for the art, but for the quiet presence of Maria. There was a gentle sadness about her sometimes, a depth in her eyes that resonated with his own hidden sorrow. He sensed she carried her own burdens, but she always offered a soft smile, a moment of calm in his busy, often lonely life. One Thursday morning, as Maria was carefully placing a small sculpture into a display case, the sleeve of her simple cardigan rode up, revealing a delicate silver chain around her wrist. Attached to the chain was a small, intricately carved wooden pendant. It wasn't something you'd buy in a shop. It was unique, clearly handmade. Robert stopped breathing. His architect's eye, trained to notice detail, zoomed in on the pendant. A wave of familiarity washed over him, sharp and sudden. He'd seen that pendant before. He walked slowly towards her. Maria looked up, her smile welcoming as always. "Anything I can help you with this morning, Mr. Sterling?" Robert's voice was a little shaky. "Maria, that pendant you're wearing, the wooden one, it's very unusual. Did you make it?" Maria's hand went to her wrist, her smile softening. "Oh, this? No, it was a gift. From someone very special." Her eyes held that familiar, quiet sadness. "It reminds me—" Robert hesitated. Should he say it? Should he pry? The pendant tugged at a memory, a photograph in Thomas's messy apartment. A photo of Thomas laughing, wearing an identical pendant around his neck. He had dismissed it at the time as just some artist thing. "It reminds me of something my son had," Robert finished, his voice barely a whisper. "Years ago." Maria's eyes widened slightly. "Your son? Was he an artist? Did he work with wood?" Robert nodded. "He painted, and he dabbled in other things, carving sometimes. He had a pendant like that, a very long time ago." Maria looked at him, her gaze searching. "What was his name?" she asked softly. Thomas, Robert replied, the name aching on his tongue. His name was Thomas Sterling. Maria's face crumpled. Tears welled up instantly, spilling down her cheeks. Thomas, she choked out. Oh, Mr. Sterling. Thomas. He was the man who gave me this. The gallery, usually a place of quiet contemplation, felt suddenly charged, the air thick with unspoken history. Robert stared at Maria, stunned. This young woman, the calm presence in his routine, knew Thomas? The man who gave her the pendant was his Thomas? Maria, still tearful, reached for a tissue from the counter. I'm so sorry, she whispered, wiping her eyes. It's just, I didn't know he had a father. He didn't talk about his family much. Only sometimes about wanting to connect with his father, wishing things were different. Robert felt a fresh wave of grief, colder and sharper than before. Thomas hadn't talked about him. The distance between them had been wider than he'd realized. He didn't talk about his life much with me either, Robert admitted, the words heavy with years of regret. We weren't as close as I wished we had been. He loved you, Mr. Sterling, Maria said, her voice firm despite her tears. He truly did. He carried a photo of you in his wallet. Robert's heart twisted. A photo? Thomas carried a photo of him? He had never known. He made this pendant, Maria explained, touching the wooden charm. He said it represented connection, roots and branches, how even when people seem far apart, they are still connected. She gave a small, sad smile. He gave it to me when he told me something very important, something he was so excited about. He wanted to tell you too. He said he was planning to come see you soon, to tell you himself. Robert leaned against a display case, feeling suddenly weak. Something important? What was it? Maria looked down, her gaze distant, lost in memory. He was going to be a father, Mr. Sterling. The world outside the gallery vanished. The hushed space felt cavernous, holding only Robert, Maria, and the ghost of Thomas. A father. Thomas was going to be a father. This was the important thing. This was why he wanted to see Robert. He knew, Robert breathed, his voice barely audible. Before the accident? He knew. Maria nodded, tears still streaming down her face. Yes, he found out a few weeks before the trip. He was so happy and so nervous. He wanted everything to be right. He wanted to talk to you, to tell you, to finally bridge that distance he felt. He said it was time. He said being a father made him see things differently. The pain was almost unbearable. Thomas, his son, the artist, the free spirit, had found a new path, a new reason for connection, and had been tragically taken before he could share it, before he could bridge the gap Robert had so foolishly allowed to grow. The last conversation, the unsaid words, the missed opportunity, they all coalesced into a crushing weight of regret. The baby, Robert said, his voice trembling. The baby? Was there a baby? Maria nodded again, a fresh wave of tears washing over her. Yes, our son, Thomas Sterling II. We call him Leo. Robert sank onto a small wooden bench, his legs unable to support him. Leo, his grandson, a piece of Thomas, still in the world, a chance he hadn't known he had. Grief and shock warred with a sudden, tentative spark of hope. Maria sat beside him, her own grief raw but tempered by a quiet strength. Thomas was so excited to tell you, she repeated, her voice softer now. He talked about you more in those last few weeks than he ever had before. He remembered stories from his childhood. He wanted Leo to know his grandfather. They sat in silence for a long time, the scent of art supplies filling the air. Robert looked at the small wooden pendant around Maria's wrist, a tangible link to the son he had lost and the grandchild he had never known existed. Leo, Robert said finally, testing the name. How old is he now? He just turned 6, Maria replied, a faint maternal tenderness entering her voice. He's got Thomas's eyes and his laugh. Robert felt a profound need, a desperate yearning to see this child, this living connection to his son. Maria, he said, turning to her, his eyes pleading, would it be possible to meet him, to meet Leo? Maria looked at him, the kindness in her eyes deepening to compassion. She saw the raw pain of a father who had lost his son and was now offered a fragile thread back to him. "Of course, Mr. Sterling," she said gently. "He should know his grandfather." Their meeting was arranged for the following Saturday at a local park. Robert dressed with care, his hands trembling slightly as he tied his tie. He brought a small, simple wooden train, remembering how Thomas had loved trains as a boy. He saw them across the grass, Maria sitting on a bench, and a small boy with a riot of dark curls running towards a swing set. As the boy got closer, Robert's breath hitched. Maria was right. He had Thomas's eyes, bright and curious, and something in his quick, fluid movements was pure Thomas. Maria introduced them. "Leo, this is Mr. Sterling. Robert, he was your daddy's father." Leo looked up at Robert, his expression unreadable. Robert knelt down, offering the wooden train. "Hello, Leo," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Your daddy liked trains when he was a boy." Leo took the train, turning it over in his hands. Then slowly, he looked back at Robert and smiled. It was a broad, open smile, full of Thomas's carefree joy. In that moment, the wall Robert had built around his heart, the one protecting him from the crushing weight of grief and regret, began to crumble. Over the following months, Robert and Maria built a new kind of family. They shared stories about Thomas, weaving together the different threads of his life, finding comfort and understanding in their shared memories. Robert learned about Thomas's dreams as a musician, the songs he wrote for Maria, the passion he poured into his art. Maria learned about Thomas's childhood, his mischievous streak, his quiet sensitivity, things she had never known. Robert became a steady, loving presence in Leo's life. He didn't try to replace Thomas, but he stepped into the role of grandfather with a quiet devotion that surprised him. He took Leo to the park, read him stories, patiently taught him how to hold a paintbrush. He watched Leo grow, finding echoes of Thomas in his gestures, his expressions, his budding interests. Leo's questions about his father were answered honestly, with love and tenderness, painting a picture of a talented, loving man who was gone too soon. Robert also supported Maria, offering her practical help, emotional comfort, and a sense of belonging. He admired her strength, her resilience, her quiet determination to build a good life for Leo. He encouraged her art, even commissioning a piece for his office, a vibrant abstract painting that reminded him of Thomas's spirit. Maria, in turn, brought warmth and light back into Robert's life, filling the empty spaces that grief had created. The gallery remained a special place, a reminder of how their paths had converged. Robert still visited, sometimes with Maria and Leo. He looked at the art now with different eyes, seeing not just form and color, but the stories and lives woven into each piece. One afternoon, sitting in his study, watching Leo draw at a nearby table, Robert held the small wooden pendant Maria had given him. It was tied to a leather cord now. He had worn it every day since she showed it to him. He traced the carving with his thumb, thinking of Thomas, of Maria, of Leo. The regret was still there, a faint ache in his heart for the lost years, the unsaid words. But it was no longer a crushing burden. It was tempered by the profound joy of knowing Leo, of seeing Thomas's light live on, of having this unexpected, precious family. Thomas had sent him a message, a bridge across the distance, a final, unexpected connection. And through Maria and Leo, Robert had found his way across it. He had lost a son, but he had gained a daughter of the heart and a grandson who was the living embodiment of his son's love and hope. His life, once defined by precise lines and controlled structures, was now filled with the beautiful, unpredictable, and deeply human colors of love, family, and redemption. He had found peace, not by forgetting the past, but by embracing the future Thomas had created.